One of the things that I've missed these last two Shabbatot has been giving my shir on the thought of Rav Soloveitchik. So I'd like to pick that up again now, virtually. We'll be learning an essay from the Rav entitled The Inner Transformation on Pesach night. Now, I won't be reading it in its entirety, as I normally do when we're in person. Instead, I'll try to summarize it and read just selected segments. Each day, we'll cover one or two parts of the essay. The Rav writes at the beginning of the essay, all the miracles that God performs to help people must be accompanied by a change in a person himself. A miracle entails an obligation. One must pay for it or participate in it. Although a person can participate only minimally in wonders affecting the workings of nature, such as the 10 plagues or the splitting of the Red Sea, a person can participate in the performance of hidden miracles. Within his inner personality, redemption of the soul, repentance, renewing the spirit, cleansing the heart. Judaism claims, the Rav writes, that the hidden miracle is supposed to parallel the observable miracle. What God does in nature, man must strive to duplicate in his personality by cleansing his heart and uplifting his soul. Now, in many ways, our mitzvot parallel or are in a response to something that God did for us. And the Rav points out two such cases that have to do with Yetziat Mitzrayim. One is the mitzvah to sanctify the firstborn, which of course parallels the plague of the firstborn, when God struck down the firstborn of the Egyptians. Another mitzvah, he says, that we do that parallels God's actions at the time of Yetziat Mitzrayim is wearing tefillin. That just as God took us out with a strong hand, so too we place a sign on our hand reminding us of God's strength and what he did for us when he took us out from Egypt. But we don't just try to emulate God's actions with our actions. We also have to try to emulate, the Rav says, how God approached the world, how he saw things at the moment of Yetziat Mitzrayim. Now, on Pesach night, the Rav says that God exhibited two key attributes that we should strive to emulate: Havdalah and Gvura. Havdalah is that attribute of separation, of distinction. God exhibited this attribute when, even though in many ways the Jewish people did not appear to be different from the Egyptians, nevertheless, God saw us as being different. He didn't confuse us with our oppressors, even though in many ways we acted just like them. He was able to make that distinction and separate us from them. The second attribute that God exhibited on Pesach night is Gvura, courage or heroism. The Rav writes that God exhibited this action when he rescued us from the Egyptians and punished them for what they had done. Now the Rav says God does not like to punish his creations. He doesn't want to harm anyone. Nevertheless, he overcame in that moment his attributes of charity and goodness, and he employed strict justice against the Egyptians instead of sparing them, because that was what was necessary in the moment. So too we then have to work out how we're supposed to apply these attributes in our life, so that Pesach can be a night of inner transformation for us, and we can emulate not just God's actions, but also God's outlook. We'll continue learning the next section of the essay tomorrow.